Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Willie, and this is the encouraging word for today. We cannot live without air. If the oxygen was suddenly to leave this room, I would probably die within a minute or less. We can't live without water. Maybe I could go a week without water. I don't know how long it is, but it's not too long. Can't go without food. In fact, I'm hungry right now. But I could probably go quite a long time without food, but eventually I would die. And most importantly, you cannot live without hope. Without hope, you just give up. Hope, somebody said, is like the oxygen our souls need to thrive. Without hope, we do not thrive. We do not go ahead. We give up, drop out. We can even become depressed, suicidal, and there's no movement in our life without hope. And situations happen all the time. Terrible, horrible situations happen to people. And without hope, true hope, they will never make it through those situations. So the time to build a hope in your life is before the situation comes. Now, there's a big misunderstanding about what hope is. Most people use the word hope as a way of saying, I wish, I hope it doesn't rain tomorrow. Now, you're not betting your life that it's not going to rain. You're just wishing. And we change the word hope for wish. I hope things get better. Newsflash, things may not get better. In fact, as I read the news each day, things are not getting better. They're getting worse. So basing your life on that kind of hope, which is kind of like a wish, is very, very dangerous. And it's even worse than not having any hope at all, because you're putting your hope in something. It's as if I hope this chair holds me, and I sit down and it breaks. Then what I was hoping for is gone, and I'm in a worse condition than when I started. So here's a situation in the book of Acts that sometimes we just read it over, but it's really an amazing, amazing incident in the book of Acts in Paul's life. Paul is now a prisoner of the Romans, and he's on his way to Rome to be tried. So a centurion is in charge of him, and the centurion is not mean towards Paul. He's taking Paul, some other prisoners, and passengers on a ship. They've gone on board a ship, and it's it's supposed to go across the sea so they can get to Europe and go to Rome. But at that time, the ships were not like ocean liners today with all the modern safety devices and engines. No, they relied on the wind to move them along. And so the wind was good during a certain season. It would take them across. But once that season came to an end, the wind was actually dangerous, and there were storms, and the ships they had at that time could not make it. Now the sailing season, the good sailing season, is just about ending, and the season where it's dangerous to even try the journey has arrived. They had been delayed, so they were behind schedule. And just to give you a heads up, when you're behind schedule, you're not going to make good decisions, because you're more interested in catching up to your schedule than doing what is right, than doing what is wise. Same thing happens when I drive a car. I'm behind schedule. I don't drive as safe as when I'm not behind schedule. There's no extra charge for that one. Okay? But behind schedule, you're going to make bad decisions. So they were delayed. They were behind schedule. They were under pressure to make it on time. Now, they had a plan to go. But Paul warned them that disaster was coming. They shouldn't try it. And Paul, it doesn't say he did, but I have a feeling he was praying and he learned from God that this was not a good time to journey. So Paul warns them, listen, it's going to be disastrous. Don't make the trip. And now as we read their response, we're going to learn a lot about false hope. It's going to help you and it's going to help me. It did help me. So we're going to look at Acts chapter 27, verse 11 through 12. And this is their response to when Paul warns them not to try the trip. Here's what it says. But the centurion, instead of listening to what Paul said, followed the advice of the pilot and of the owner of the ship. Since this harbor was unsuitable to winter in, the majority decided that we should sail on, hoping, it's that word, hoping to reach Phoenix and winter there. This was a harbor in Crete facing both southwest and northwest. So I think you can pick out some of the dangers. First, they're in a hurry. That's danger number one. Never make decisions in a hurry. Then the centurion doesn't listen to Paul. Doesn't listen to Paul, what Paul says. And instead, he follows the advice of the pilot and the owner. Now, they are the experts, particularly the pilot, the one who drives the ship. He's the experts. But let me tell you something. You can't base your hope on what the experts say. We've been through that so many times these past couple of years with COVID. Oh, the experts say, the scientists say, the medicine says. We have this expert culture in our society now. If the experts say it, that's what must be true. Be careful of basing your hope on the advice of the experts. All right, so that's the first mistake. Then that's the second mistake. Being in a hurry, it's okay to listen to experts. I'm not saying don't listen to experts, but don't base your hope on what an expert says. They can be wrong. They're human. They're the same as you and I. They don't know everything. Then the third thing is the majority decided that we should sail on. The majority. The majority of people can make big mistakes. Never go along with what everyone else believes. Don't do it. The majority does crazy things today, and things end up badly. Then it says they were hoping to reach their destination. Hoping, meaning wishing. These are indications of a false hope. First of all, it's influenced by our desires. They wanted to get there. And listen, our hearts are deceitful. Our motives, our desires mix in with our ability to discern what is right or what is wrong. And so when we want to do something, we kind of can trick ourselves without even realizing it. Yeah, that's what God said. And it's really fulfilling what you want. The key is to deny yourself what you want if you want to hear clearly from God. So they're influenced by their desires. They were influenced by what experts said. They were influenced by what the majority said. And it was all based on the avoidance of suffering, based on the circumstances. They didn't want to stay where they were for the winter. They wanted to get there now. False hope. They convinced themselves they had hope to make it. What was missing was a word from the Lord. What was missing was an eternal perspective. Hope is based on an eternal perspective, not what you wish would happen tomorrow. Romans 5:5, talking about hope, the eternal hope, the hope God gives us, says hope does not disappoint. Does not disappoint. God's hope does not disappoint. And that kind of hope, my friends, if you read Romans 5:4 and Romans 5:5, Romans 5:5 says hope does not disappoint. 5:4 says that hope is built on suffering, knowing that tribulation brings about perseverance, and perseverance, character, and character, hope. So sometimes suffering is part of the equation. And if you have an avoidance of suffering mentality, you're not going to have true hope. I think of the scripture, Romans 8:28. All things work together for good. Those are called according to God's purpose. So your life surrendered to God. Then all things, good, bad, indifferent, will work together for your good in the long run. It's not an immediate hope sometimes. Weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Naturally, I wish there was no weeping in the night, but sometimes there is weeping in the night. But I can have hope because I know joy is coming in the morning. And I know as sure as Jesus rose from the dead, there will be a morning in my life. Hope in the midst of suffering is an eternal hope. True hope is not based on circumstances, but based on our relationship with Jesus. So, my friends, I encourage you to avoid false hope and build your hope on things eternal. They will stand strong when all else fails. God bless you. I'll see you on Friday.